Thank you, Beth. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. This is a really unique and wonderful opportunity for a wonderful region. We've really enjoyed the time that we've spent here so far. It's the whole region is just absolutely spectacular, and both the people and the physical environment have been absolutely great to us. And what I'd like to do is Sunita with LAI Engineering, who's also part of our team. She'll be assisting with the PowerPoint presentation here. What I'd like to do is give an overview of the grant itself and the process that we're going through and some of the components of the grant. And hopefully I'll be able to see everything over here. I'm not that good that I can remember everything that's in our presentation, but hopefully it'll give you enough information to inform you about the grant and what we're going to be doing over the next 2.5 weeks. And then we're going to break out into each table. We're going to ask you just a few questions, and there's papers on the table. We're going to ask you as a group to work together and come up with some information for us, because what we're looking for is some input from you that we can use as we generate this application. Here's a map of the region. You may have seen the larger version, and you have a copy on each of your tables. And it shows the region that's pretty large in area, which is exactly what HUD is looking for. They want to make sure that it's large in area, and it includes, if not one more MSAs. And I think we have 25 counties in total that will be a part of this application. So it's a pretty big, diverse region, but we feel will work well as a unified application and a unified planning program. So the grant process itself is being led by the two organizations that Beth just indicated, the Southeast Tennessee Development District and the Northwest Georgia Regional Commission, working in partnership. And we'll continue to work as a partnership throughout not only the grant writing process, but once we are successful in getting that grant and moving forward with the planning process for sustainability. And right now, as Beth indicated, there's our two firms are working together, LSL and LAI, in terms of the grant writing process. And the application is due August 23rd, so I won't be sleeping an awful lot between now and then. And there are some other members of the group who are working on this who will be in the same boat, I'm sure. But I think we're all excited, and we've had some real good working partners so far that has helped us. And as Beth indicated, you all know who you are, and we're really going to be leaning on you too over the next couple of weeks to get additional information together for us. Now the details on the grant, just so everyone's aware, it is a regional planning grant. It's not a shovel-ready implementation grant. It's anticipated that this plan will ultimately put the regions that are involved in this process, will put them in the forefront of future funding efforts. We have to demonstrate how the plan will lead to thorough implementation and be accountable for the outcomes. The notice of funding availability states in there that not only do we have to tell them how we're going to plan, what our process will be, but as we go through the planning process, how are we going to measure the results of the things that we're looking to accomplish. So they want to know all this up front. So it makes it very challenging. Future federal, as I indicated, future federal funding may be dependent on this grant. I think it will be. There's a maximum request for this area based on the population size of $5 million. So it can be a very sizable application. The total amount allocated nationwide is $100 million. And they do have different categories. So it's very, very competitive. And they've also indicated that next year what they're going to do is the highest scoring regions will be put on a preferred sustainability list. And then they will, if you're not funded this year, they will look to fund you next year. So the key is getting enough points in the application to be put on a preferred list. So we're going to be scratching and clawing for every point that we can get in their ratings. And they have forms that they actually have us fill out. It's entered online. It's a fairly technical application. But ultimately, it's a unique opportunity. We've never seen a grant opportunity like this out of HUD, and it does also involve the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Transportation. So there's 3 agencies involved, even though HUD is the lead organization. But we've never seen an opportunity like this, and they're finally recognizing that it's critical for our regions and for our communities to have sustainable planning with real implementation tools. So there are principles that are built into this. I'm going to go through these very quickly. And the application has to incorporate these, even though they have specific standards to follow. The first is to provide more transportation choices, which includes developing safe, reliable, and economic transportation choices to decrease household transportation costs, reduce our nation's dependence on foreign oil, improve air quality, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and promote public health. To promote equitable, affordable housing, to expand location and energy-efficient housing choices for people of all ages, incomes, races, and ethnicities to increase mobility and lower the combined costs of housing and transportation. This is a key factor in the grant application, the combination of housing and transportation. Those are, although it's sustainability across the board, they're really focused in on those two aspects of sustainability. To enhance economic competitiveness, to improve economic competitiveness through reliable and timely access to employment centers, educational opportunities, services, and other basic needs by workers, as well as expanded business access to markets. The next is supporting existing communities, to target federal funding toward existing communities through such strategies as transit-oriented mixed-use development and land recycling to increase community revitalization, improve the efficiency of public works investments, and safeguard rural landscapes. The fifth one is to coordinate policies and leverage investments, to align federal policies and funding to remove barriers to collaboration, leverage funding, and increase the accountability and effectiveness of all levels of government to plan for future growth, including making smart energy choices such as locally generated renewable energy. And one of the things I want to mention too in this grant application, they're actually in our leveraging, they're allowing us to use other federal funding that have been provided through other programs as part of our leveraging match, which is unusual. Typically, they don't want us to use other funding that they've provided to leverage this type of funding. So it's a unique program from that perspective too. And last but not least, the value communities and neighborhoods to enhance the unique characteristics of all communities by investing in healthy, safe, and walkable neighborhoods, rural, urban, or suburban, which, based on the tour I get of the city in particular, you've done a great job in this area. It's pretty amazing. So the grant requirements. First of all, we've been working for some time now on data collection. There's a lot of data collection that goes into this. Some of it is readily available, some of it is not. So we're going to be reaching out to many of you to help us with that information. Now the process, once we get the grant, it's going to involve something called scenario-based visioning. And what this is Commissioner Bed talked about documents, plans that we've got a bunch of them, but we need to implement them. Well, the focus of the sustainability plan is to make sure we have a living document that no matter what may happen, so if we don't get that pot of funding, or this project doesn't happen, that we have scenarios in place that allow us to continue to move forward in the sustainability planning effort, so nothing holds us back. And that's got to be a key component of our application, to do scenario-based planning. And it's a very grassroots-oriented process, and will allow us to reach down to the local neighborhoods and local areas of all the communities within the region. It's a very ambitious effort. In terms of planning, we've organized, and I'll be talking about this, around 6 sustainability themes. And outcomes, one of the other things that the grant application is looking for is, once we've gone through this planning effort, what are our outcomes going to be? Once again, how are we going to measure the results of the things that we're doing? How are we going to prove that we're being sustainable, or becoming more sustainable? Now, one of the other things that the application looks for is what we call leveraging. They don't want to go it alone, the federal government. They want to make sure that we're in a partnership with them. So there's a couple of ways that they're doing that. They're looking for members of a consortium. They want, for example, all of the counties in this region to be part of our application, and other agencies and consortium members that can add value to the sustainability planning process. Now, there will be other roles that we'll talk about later in the presentation that we need your help with. But at a minimum, they want to see a real strong consortium of communities and organizations. Then, of course, they also want us to put some resources into the application. Now, they've asked for a bare minimum of 20% of in-kind and monetary match. They don't give you any bonus points, though, for 20%. They start giving you bonus points for over 20%. So we've generally talked about, hey, let's get that match up to 40%. If we can get 20% in cash, and we get 20% in kind, so if your community sends a representative to a meeting, we can count their time and their expenses towards the match. Okay, if your organization is doing things internally to support the planning process, that will also count towards match. But ultimately, we're going to still need to show that there's some money being committed to the effort. There will have to be a cash match. Fortunately, it's over a 3-year period. And as I've indicated in a previous session, it will likely take HUD a little while before they evaluate the applications. They say you're selected, you put the proper agreements in place, and then they're ready to get going. Most of their applications or projects like this take at least 8 months. So we've got a little time to work with in terms of the financial end of things, but ultimately it's a 3-year period for the planning process. So we can start budgeting that money up. So these are the sustainability plan elements that we're going to be building into the application. I'm going to give you some examples, but very quickly, there's fiscal, economic, physical, environmental, cultural, and social. Now here's some examples of things that would fall into physical sustainability. This isn't all-inclusive, not intended to be. Just some things for you to think about when we ask you questions. Public services and facilities, tax base, budgets, federal funding, capital improvements, and public safety. There may be others that could add to that list. Economic, the marketplace at large, regional employment, industries growth, job training, workforce development, transport and service routes, and brownfield redevelopment. Under physical sustainability, one thing I want to mention too, now we put these under specific categories, they cross into under other categories. It's not like they're exclusive to these categories. We actually had debates within our offices on which categories they would fall under, so that's how they are truly integrated. And actually when we put a plan together, they will be truly integrated. That's the goal behind it. But for the purposes of breaking this down for the grant application, physical sustainability would include transportation, infrastructure, alternative energy, stormwater management, land use arrangement, housing stock, and placemaking. And people say, well, what's placemaking? Placemaking is when you create physical environments that are unique and creative and inviting, like downtown Chattanooga. Environmental sustainability, natural systems, air quality, water quality, green infrastructure, local food and agriculture. That is one of the factors or review factors and rating factors in this application, which is once again fairly unique. I haven't seen too many applications with that included in, but a vital part of sustainability. Energy efficiency and wildlife habitat. Under cultural sustainability, we have cultural resources, arts, entertainment, education, historic preservation, recreation, and tourism. And then last but not least, social sustainability. Affordable housing, jobs, and housing mismatch. Public health and welfare, the community, accessibility, and last but not least, which is really all-encompassing, the quality of life. A development plan that recognizes and enhances the quality of life in each of the communities and as a region, and the region as a whole.